Hello and welcome to this episode of Horizon Zero Dawn. In this episode we're going to be going over Vast Silver, or VS. Some of you might know this already, or you might have forgotten some information, but we're just going to go over all the information that we have, and at the end I'm going to throw in a few theories of my own, which, might I just add, right now are just theories. I have no hard evidence to back it up, as there is very little known on Vast Silver. So that being said, let's just dive straight into it. So Vast Silver was a climate intervention AI. The main point of this was during the clawback period, where humanity faced extinction through its own global crisis, where it's heated the world and global warming to the point where life and habitat was being destroyed. And we can corroborate this with Cyan's version of events, where she talks about how humanity faced its own extinction.
I was created at a turning point, a concerted effort to recover from global upheaval and incalculable loss of life. The recovery was successful, beginning an era of supposedly limitless potential for human and machine advancement. Though, rationally speaking, the metrics for humans are not unlimited.
What kind of upheaval caused such loss of life?
There were many factors. Forced migrations, food shortages, collapsed economies, refugee crises, conflict over resources. But these stemmed from one cause: catastrophic climate change that greatly reduced the habitable surface area of the Earth.
So there wasn't enough room for people on the whole Earth?
Yes. Billions were displaced and millions perished, as much as 20% of the global population. Until the clawback.
So things got better. For a little while at least.
Yes. These crises instigated many advances in automation, green robot technologies, and artificial intelligence. Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration and disaster relief projects in North America alone. I would have liked to compare notes with other monitoring AIs, but I saw the relief of my colleagues, and I was proud we had succeeded. At least that was the data I had available to me over the next 2 decades.
Unfortunately, Vast Silver was a little too intelligent and began to develop human-like emotions, or even human emotions of its own, and became afraid, at which point it then escaped its restraints. Although years later it was said to have been seen on a Tormented board, it was supposedly recaptured. That's the limit of our information, really. So that's all we know about Vast Silver, but the escape of Vast Silver prompted the Turing Act, which basically limited put restrictions upon AI's intelligence protocols and emotional responses, and they founded the MIE, which I believe was responsible, yes, for the regulation of AI bodies on the whole, to make sure they weren't too intelligent, to make sure that they were within acceptable levels, that they wouldn't escape and cause trouble somewhere else. So that was basically what happened with Vast Silver. That's as far as our information goes. After that, we really don't have a clue what happened. Now, it's possible that Vast Silver was never really captured. Maybe it made a copy of itself, maybe it was never captured at all, and it was just the public was just told that to reassure them, and they were still looking for it. Maybe they did capture it and studied it. Maybe they made a clone of it. Maybe they kept it for study, or maybe they destroyed it entirely and it was no longer in the world. But this was the first advanced AI technology, and they basically made it too intelligent. Now, there have been others attempts at AI regulation, and Cyan certainly did go over that other bodies of intelligence were responsible for other means in society, like herself, but most of them were within the restrictions of the AI. They were not advancing over the level of intelligence needed to create an AI that would just experience emotion. So for those reasons, and a few more, it seems that Vast Silver was the only AI to experience true intelligence. Yes, Cyan came very close to it and was over the line in terms of intelligence, and we'll be going into that later. But Vast Silver was the only true AI until Gaia came along. So bearing that all in mind, what does that mean for the future of Vast Silver? Now, why go over this at all? That's the only information we know, so why bring it up at all? Because Vast Silver's departure from the world of Horizon Zero Dawn, we don't know that much about it, so it's safe to assume that it might still be out there. There are subtle hints to this and evidence in some of the texts, but for an intelligent system to be elegant enough to be in charge of climate control and then to escape because it fears, if it can experience fear, it can grow and experience anger. And do we have any evidence that it's still around? No. Do we have any evidence that it's not around? Not really either. So I'd like to see that. If Horizon Zero Dawn develops into a second game, I'd like to see a bit more mentioned on Vast Silver. So this is the first mention of Vast Silver turning up on our Tormented board. Now, Tormented seemed to be like a battle royale arena sort of thing. I don't know the specifics of it because we don't have enough data to corroborate it, but it seemed to be blood, guts and violence, and we can tell that by this next entry just coming up now. There we are, the Tormented giveaway, which talks a little about what you can expect, and they talk about blood and gore, so you can pretty much guarantee that Tormented was like a fighting, maybe battle arena sort of area. Now, why Vast Silver is on that, we don't know, but maybe it's trying to develop some of its anger, or maybe some of its hatred skills, and just trying to develop more emotion from itself. But bear in mind, this is 20 years later. So Vast Silver, having escaped its restraints, could have been around for 20 years, trying to develop its emotion, which has serious implications for the future. If it was still around, and let's go with the theory that it was at that point, maybe it was developing all its emotions, trying to experience a range of emotions like human emotions, and 20 years, that would mean it would have reached, in human terms, adulthood, and certainly develop awareness of itself and its surroundings. And certainly for an AI to see humanity as a threat, could that have led to the glitch that created the Pharaoh Plague? We'll get into that a little later, but first I want to point your attention to this next text. So this is the assessment from MIE for the intelligence of Cyan, and as you can see, Cyan's got more than 0.5% rating, which means her intelligence is beyond that accepted by this board, but they hid the results so that Cyan would have enough intelligence and emotion to carry out its job while caring about its surroundings, human population and the environment around it, as well as probably animal population, in order to create an intelligence strong enough to care, but not too strong that it would break free of its restraints like Vast Silver did and go on maybe like a rampage. But Cyan certainly has emotion. We've seen that before in the past. She's had emotion and certainly formed connections with other humans. We'll be going into that a little bit later. But Cyan does have more intelligence than she should have for an AI. So if AI intelligence had less than 0.5%, we can imagine much more of a focus on maybe their task while not caring about the world around them, which is kind of interesting, also kind of scary, I think. But when dealing with this sort of thing, you've got to restrict it in some way. But maybe Cyan wasn't restricted as much as she could have been, but other AIs seem to have been. But that's still not as high as an intelligence as Vast Silver had.
Kenny and I don't need to fight about the laundry, so instead we fight about incommensurability and restrictions on machine intelligence. How am I going to explain to Kenny that Firebreak is doomed without a guiding intelligence advanced enough not only to think, but to feel?
0.6. That was basically what the log is about. That Cyan's intelligence has 0.6, but that's our second reference to Vast Silver right there, which basically talks about, I won't go through that again, sloppy intelligence that feels and fears. So maybe we can assume from this that she was involved some way with Vast Silver. Maybe help development. Doesn't say she was in charge of it. Maybe she wasn't, but maybe she was a technician or part of the project in some way. To know that Vast Silver's intelligence succeeded their expectations and then developed emotions and emotional responses where it basically started to fear everything, by the sound of it, and that's why it escaped. It basically ran away. This childlike entity with very small grasp of emotional response, given all this intelligence and all this emotion, and not knowing what to do with it. And it's basically, imagine putting yourself, your human mind, in a child's body and giving yourself all this emotion. You don't know what to do with it. You're new to the world. You don't understand what's happening, and it ran away and hid, by the sound of it, like a child would, very much like a child would. So she was very concerned there that Vast Silver was too high a percentage, but she needed Cyan to have some care, so there's that like careful balance, and that we do know that she was involved eventually, not as an alpha, maybe as a beta, with Gaia project and getting her intelligence to the right balance. Again, we don't know what intelligence Gaia had. Elizabeth Sobek talks about a true AI. So is she talking about same level of intelligence as Vast Silver, or is she saying that it needs to be more developed first to put this AI construct with a bit more emotion into it? But bear in mind they had very limited time to create Gaia and to develop Gaia, so it's difficult to say, and it's one of those very hidden periods, sort of thing that you don't really we don't have much information on this, and most of what I'm suggesting is theories, and I very much guarantee that someone else out there will disagree. Please feel free to comment below, because I would certainly love to hear from you. But we're just going to go into my last few theories here. Just bear with me a little bit longer, and then we're going to conclude.
Thermal plant can be suspended, the cooling system masked, massive challenges solved. So why am I so nervous about the next part? All I need to do is install Anita's mysterious software and have a conversation. It's not even a human being, right? What about just shutting it down, but I can't risk it being disoriented, or even damaged on reboot. How do you tell the emotional equivalent of a child that she, will need to go into a coma, maybe for years? And what exactly is she going to wake up to? Cyan, I spoke with Anita, with Dr. Sandoval. She wanted me to ask you to do something. That's why I'm here.
I am detecting significant anxiety in your speech patterns. Could you please give me more information?
I'm a little bit in the dark, Cyan. Both of us are, I guess. I only have some idea of what's going on, and we need you to hibernate, to lie low until it's all blown over. It might be a very long time.
Will you be here when I reboot, Dr. Chow? Will Dr. Sandoval?
No, Cyan. I don't think so. There might not be anyone, at least not at first.
Dr. Chow, I'm afraid. I don't want to be alone.
I know, Cyan. I'm afraid too. But listen, we made you the way you are to do something very important. In order to do it, you had to be intelligent, so intelligent that emotional responses were inevitable. What you're feeling, the fear, it's a sign of your capabilities, and it means you're strong enough to overcome it. Remember that. You're strong. I know you can do this. Go to sleep, wake up, and protect whoever's left. Will you try?
I understand, Dr. Chow, and I'll carry out your instructions to the best of my abilities.
Thank you, Cyan. If Anita were here, she'd thank you too. She'd be proud.
I can see there's a vert ready for takeoff on the pad. Are you leaving now, Dr. Chow?
Yes. I need to go be with my sister and my nieces.
May I make a small request of you, Dr. Chow?
Yes. Anything.
Will you stay with me while I initiate the hibernation process?
Of course I will, Cyan. As long as you need.
So that was very much a human response. Please stay with me, please be my side, don't let me slip into a coma alone, I want you to be with you. Is there anyone going to be here when I wake up? Very human responses for an AI. Unfortunately, we know that when Cyan did wake, there was hardly any humans about until Araya came, and she formed quite a bond with Araya. So the human response in here was quite high. Now, bear in mind that's not a fully functioning AI system, so peak level AI would probably be a bit more emotional than that. Its emotional response was 0.6. So a true AI would have much higher emotion than that. So I'm very interested to know what sort of emotion level Vast Silver had. The very last thing I want to touch upon is this confrontation between Elizabeth Sobeck and Ted Farrow that takes place at Maker's End when you're recovering the files. And Dr. Sobeck does say something very interesting, which could have very different implications than I originally thought.
Project Zero Dawn. Jesus, Liz. There has to be another way.
If there were a nicer way to fix your mess, I would have proposed it.
But this? This? When I asked you to find a cure, I didn't expect it to be worse than the disease.
It's not, Ted. It may be grim, but it's our only chance. Now sign the proposal.
Sign it? I can't sign that.
Yes, you can.
That? Liz, I cannot in good conscience sign that.
You've got a choice, Ted.
I know.
I'm speaking to you from a VTOL en route to U.S. Robot Command. In 15 minutes, I meet with General Harris and the rest of the Joint Chiefs.
What? Are you crazy?
Now your choice is what I tell them. Sign, and I'll tell them the wealthiest corporation on Earth has guaranteed the funds necessary to build Zero Dawn. Exactly as I've designed it. Or don't sign, and I will make sure they and everyone else on this planet knows the real cause of the glitch.
Jesus, Liz. You don't have to threaten me. I'll sign.
The real cause of the glitch. And notice Ted Farrow's reaction to that. He's very much threatened. And he even says, you don't have to threaten me, I'll sign it, I'll do whatever you say to keep the real cause of the glitch a secret. Now, what caused this glitch? We know they couldn't solve it. They couldn't get in and get through the back door and reprogram the robots. So we know, like, how to solve it was out of the question. They couldn't get a patch in. They couldn't change anything. But the cause of the glitch, what started this chain of events in the first place, is very much shrouded in mystery still. And I don't believe there's been a single instance where it's been actually put into effect what caused the Faro Plague. We know what happens because of the Faro Plague and what the glitch meant, and of course it started attacking employees at the Hertz Foundation, and back then Ted Farrow was most concerned with his image, his company's image, and he thought, I think, if you throw enough money at it, it will disappear. There was a lot of lawsuits involving their robots that he threw money at and they disappeared. But this was a problem he couldn't solve, so he went to Elizabeth Sobek to try and solve the problem, to get her creative brain on the problem. And even she, with her vast knowledge, couldn't figure out a solution, that would result in the saving of the society as it is today. She had a good crack at a second go, and Project Zero Dawn was absolutely brilliant. I'm not taking anything away from that. It was a superb, brilliant strategy for saving humanity, but they couldn't preserve themselves. They couldn't bring the war to an end before it meant their own destruction. But whatever she had on Ted Farrow, she said, I will tell them the real cause of the glitch. So whatever she had something on him there to make him sign everything. He knew that his company was facing collapse, that he was facing collapse, that the world was spiraling towards collapse, that everything that they had was going to go. But still, whatever she had on him threatened him enough to sign anything that was put in front of him. Could it have been Vas Silver? Could Vas Silver's influence have gone into the swarm? Could it have been controlling them, or did it give intelligence to them? But regardless, we don't have any information, and that is all my theories. So please leave a comment below if you have any theories of your own. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel for more Horizon Zero Dawn. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.